4. We're at the Ears press
Oh,
conference,
yeah,
just
right.
checking in.
Yeah, we need one too.
Awesome. Thank you, Artera. Will you let Bella know? Shots up. Awesome. Thank you. I did it. We're good.
That's why we went there first. Luckily, we weren't too far from there. We were at the scene of the thought was a homicide.
Yeah.
Y'all need white balances? I'm good. Good? Okay. Give you a mic check. My fellow Americans. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. We good? Okay. Did you already call it in? How come I can't get this thing to come loose? God, what is up with this thing, man? Jeez. Seriously? I'll reposition this. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. My fellow Americans.
Let's do a quick mic check as we await a briefing here from JSO.
We just want to make sure we can hear
My
you.
big feet.
That's all good. You guys all ready? We're good.
Okay, cool. Check one more thing real quick. Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Hungerford with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office Traffic Homicide Unit. Today's briefing is in reference to a call for service that we had in reference to an unresponsive male inside of a vehicle that had crashed into another vehicle. And sadly, he resulted in a fatality. At about 2:27 p.m., there was a call for service to the Magnolia Terrace Apartments. The parking lot, Ford Fusion, was running and the driver was unresponsive and the vehicle had crashed into another vehicle within the parking lot. Jacksonville Fire Rescue responded and provided emergency medical services as they transported the gentleman to a local hospital. Black male in his mid-50s. Shortly after arrival at the hospital, he was pronounced deceased. This is the 160th traffic fatality in Duval County, with the caveat that there was minor damage to both of the vehicles, very minor damage, and not enough damage to either vehicle to actually cause a traffic fatality. So there's likely a medical condition or something else that's going to be come to terms with. So.
Was it that black vehicle that we saw at the very front?
Yes, it was a four-door Ford. We've not made next of kin. I can tell you it's a four-door Ford.
How rare is it to have these types of crashes where someone suffers a medical condition and lose control of their vehicle? Is this something that JSO responds to quite often, or is this pretty rare?
It's fairly rare. Once or twice a year we'll get something of that nature. We've had them before where they're on the roadway doing highway speeds and had a medical condition, a heart attack in the past, and then they veer off the road and strike anything that's in the area. I think one they struck 4 or 5 cars in a car lot. Another one they ran off the road and hit a pole. So this one is very low speed, and the gentleman appears to be backing out of a parking space and careened into another vehicle and wedged and stopped. But the car was still running. A neighbor came outside and saw that something was awry and called for help.
And what exactly did he crash into?
Pickup truck. Yeah. So the car backed into a pickup truck, and when the neighbor came out, he was unresponsive, so he called for rescue and police.
And nobody was in the pickup truck when it was hit, it was just parked?
Yeah, it was a parked car. So the only occupant of either vehicle was the gentleman who was transported, and it's likely a medical condition.
I guess it's safe to say that this is one of those scenarios where it was better that it happened in a place where he wasn't traveling at a fast rate of speed around other traffic.
Very insightful. Yes, sir, you're correct. Yeah, it would not have been, could have hurt somebody else or been a very bad traffic crash if he was out on, either San Juan or Cassett or anywhere nearby.
And the person who called was after he had already crashed. Nobody saw him, have any kind of...
Nobody witnessed it, and we don't know how long the car had been stationary, wedged against the other vehicle, running but still in reverse.
From investigating these types of crashes, like you said, this is like medically induced. Can you talk about how hard it may be for someone to control a vehicle when they know that they're experiencing some sort of medical setback or some sort of medical issue?
That's an interesting question. I don't know that I could speak to that. I haven't experienced a medical problem while I'm driving, but I would say that if you feel chest pains and you're thinking you're having a heart attack, a stroke, or something like that, if you have the mental capacity just to pull off and put on the flashers, you might be able to draw some attention that way and likely lessen the severity of the crash or lessen the opportunity to hurt somebody else.
And again,
I don't know that that's something that you're capable of doing while you're having a heart attack realistically.
That's what I'm saying. And I guess depending upon what type of medical issue you have, there may be time to do that. There may not be time.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, especially we respond frequently to people who have low blood sugar or high blood sugar, as the case may be, and they actually have. There's a small window where they know something's wrong and they pull off the road and saves themselves and everybody else. But in a heart attack condition, if that's what this was, we don't know. That might be very hard to do. I think they come on with relatively no warning.
How old would you say this individual was?
Mid-50s.
Mid-50s. So I guess at this point you have to wait for a toxicology report to come back to make sure there was nothing in his system that may have caused a medical condition? Or?
Yes, we'll wait for the medical examiner's report. It can take up to 90 days. We usually get them 30 days. Medical examiner in Duval County is very efficient, and so we'll be looking for those results.
Since we have you here talking about traffic, last night there was a traffic fatality involving a pedestrian, woman in the Arlington area, and I wondered if you could look into our camera and talk to the public about what pedestrians can do to keep themselves safe and what motorists can do to avoid situations of hitting pedestrians.
Yeah, so for pedestrians, it's safest to cross at a crosswalk. In particular, if you go to a traffic signal, then you know that the light's red and all traffic is stopped, that's the best time to cross. If you depress the plunger for the pedestrian crosswalk and wait for the signal to walk for the walker, that's the safest way to cross the road. Diagonally is not recommended. It takes much longer to cross the road. You want to go perpendicular. It's a quicker cross.
And I suspect, especially at night, it's even more dangerous.
Yeah, at nighttime, a lot of the ones that we respond to involving death or great bodily injury, the pedestrian is not crossing within a crosswalk. Many times they're crossing diagonally, and very frequently they're wearing dark clothing, so the driver wasn't even aware they were in the roadway. So, for drivers, just remember that if the crosswalk's parallel with the driver after a red light is usually when the light turns green, is usually when the pedestrians have the first right of way to walk. So you want to yield to them if they're in that crosswalk. As your light turns green, take a quick look to the right, to the left before you move. Make sure there's not a pedestrian trying to come across the road. If they are in the crosswalk, they have the right of way 90% of the time.
And I guess it's always important to stay at the scene.
Yes.
I know we've had some crashes here in the past which were hit and run.
Yeah, especially for the young drivers out there. If you do have a traffic crash, state law requires you to stay at the scene, especially if it involves great bodily injury. Many times the people who flee the scene, sometimes they're younger drivers who panic. Don't panic, just remain at the scene. You may even be able to save somebody's life. If you hit a pedestrian and you stay at the scene, you may be able to pull them off the road so that they don't get hit again, or block the road with your vehicle so they don't get hit. The one on Arlington Road, at University Boulevard in Arlington, the driver was actually able to pull the young lady from the roadway to start CPR in the parking lot, which was just smart. It's a good move on his part. Sadly, it didn't end well, but if he tried CPR in the roadway, it's just more dangerous for everybody. And if he left her in the roadway, she would likely have been run over by another motorist, and that didn't happen because he was quick-witted and got her to a safe spot where they could start CPR. So there again, if you're going to go help somebody who's injured, especially a dog, a cat, we've had a few of them where a dog and a cat or a cat, I should say, were injured in a roadway, and a nice caring citizen went to go help them, and then they were struck by a car and killed. So if you're going to help an animal that's been struck and they landed in the roadway, make sure that you do it safely. You know, I don't know how else to put it. If you're in the road, you're very vulnerable. So that's all I have.
Sergeant, this is you mentioned 160th fatality this year, and we're at the very tail end of the year. Just want to see how you feel about that number and how it compares to last year.
So last year we were at 175 for the year, so we're still below that threshold. I don't think that we're going to eclipse it, but it's going to end up fairly close. I expect by the end of the year we still have a few days left.
And just while we have you, not to be too off topic, but New Year's Eve is coming up. A lot of people will be on the roads, going to different, parties and whatnot. Just any thoughts on folks traveling and staying safe?
Yeah, if you're out and about and you go to a party and you are partaking in alcohol, strongly urge you just to grab an Uber. They're cheap. I mean, ride-share Ubers are very, very inexpensive these days, and it's simple as clicking on your phone. It's very easy to get a ride home safely, and then a return ride to get your car in the morning. It's very easy. It's much safer. I hear on the commercials it can cost thousands of dollars to defend a DUI, but if you hurt somebody, there's no amount of money that can take that guilt from you. So just be careful. If you do partake, I would recommend having somebody take you home or get an Uber, something of that nature.
What do you attribute that drop in traffic fatalities this year to?
It's a good question, and we do have a number of enforcement strategies in place, but it's hard to say. Thank you. You have a good day.
What's your first name?
Robert.
Robert.
R-V-E-R-T. Last name is Hungerford. Hun.